Coronavirus and climate change. Are they linked? Is the pandemic nature's way of sending us an urgent message? A warning shot? According to the UN Environment Chief, the COVID-19 outbreak and the climate crisis are reminders that when we fail to take care of the planet, we fail to take care of ourselves. So what are the lessons we can learn? And what can you and I do to build back better? Let's get some answers from climate scientist Kate Marvel. Hi Kate, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here.
The impact of the coronavirus pandemic is both immediate and dreadful. But as we know, there is another, even deeper emergency, the planet's unfolding environmental crisis. What parallels do you see between the two?
I think it's important to begin by stressing that the COVID crisis, the pandemic, was not directly caused by climate change, but there are parallels. Both of these are issues that fundamentally are going to require not just the best science that we have, but action in response to the best science that we have. Our fate is interlinked with the fate of everything on the planet. So biodiversity loss, ocean acidification, rising temperatures, more severe and more frequent extreme events like downpours or droughts. These are things that we're not going to be able to isolate our way out of. Both of these crises hit marginalized communities the hardest, and they tend to exacerbate the inequalities that already exist in society.
The claim that children are relatively unaffected by COVID is misleading, isn't it? Can you talk about how and why this pandemic, like climate change, is a child rights crisis?
I think the socioeconomic changes that we're seeing are going to affect children the most. We know that children who don't have access to technology, children who don't have access to a stable home learning environment are really disadvantaged by the closure of schools. We know that children of parents who have lost their jobs, children of parents who are struggling to pay the rent, are really going to face serious consequences as a result of this. Something very similar is happening with climate change. There's a notion that we're all in this together, and in some sense we are. A virus can affect every human. Climate change is going to affect everybody who lives on the planet. But at the same time, there are existing structures that mean that not everybody is going to be affected equally.
In many ways, this pandemic is giving us a glimpse of what could be in store in the future if we don't transform our existing systems and structures. What kind of solutions do we need to reset and redesign in a sustainable way?
The climate crisis is not a problem with no solution. It's a problem with many solutions. It's a problem that's going to require technological solutions, new innovations, new energy generation technologies, but also new ways of structuring society, new ways of relating to each other, new ways of living together. And the raw talent, the brain power that's going to come up with those solutions and be able to implement that, that's our children. And if we don't stress education right now, if we don't give the children the tools that they're going to need to confront the changing climate, we're in really big trouble.
The climate crisis is intimidating. For many, it's difficult to take in the urgency, especially now as we battle a global health emergency. What can we do? What are the daily habits we should reconsider? The small steps we can take?
One of the most powerful things that we can do about climate change is to actually talk to each other about it, to make sure that this is an issue that we're all aware of, that's coming up in conversations, that's an issue on the political agenda. There are ways that we can have these dialogues. There are changes that we can make in our daily lives, walking or riding a bike as opposed to driving, eating less meat. But those individual changes are important only insofar as they add up to really concerted collective action. So we need to act individually, we need to talk about these things, and then we need to act collectively as countries and as a species.
When the world unites and decides to work together, change can happen. We've seen how fast we've been able to move and adapt as people in the face of the COVID-19 outbreak. Are you hopeful that we can come together to fight climate change?
This may be kind of a controversial statement, but for me, I don't feel hope because I don't need hope. I am a scientist. I know exactly what is causing the planet to heat up. It's our emission of greenhouse gases, particularly carbon dioxide. So what do we need to do to prevent catastrophic warming? We need to do less of that. We need to stop our emissions. We need to really drastically cut them. For me, the most important thing is not hope. It's courage. It's determination. Everything is going to change, whether we like it or not. And I think we have a choice. We can shape that change and we can make it into something that we want to see, or we can throw up our hands and let the change happen around us. And I know which one I want to choose.
And what choice are you going to make? What do you want your government to do differently? What changes are you planning to make in your everyday life to protect the environment? Let us know in the comment section below. Remember, it all starts with a conversation.